Of the world, welcome to Marketing as a Foreign Language. This the 305th episode. As I've mentioned many times before, I'm kind of a spiritual guy. I believe that there are no coincidences, and I was chatting with our guest today, Rev Ciancio, and I was just top to bottom impressed. Impressed because as the owner of a digital advertising agency for now 6 years, I know, and then many years before that, that restaurants are just so difficult to get right for marketing. As Rev mentioned backstage, we're talking like 10 to 12% margins, 20% if you're lucky. You can have a ton of social media followers. You can have a bunch of people coming to the restaurant and you can still be hemorrhaging money. It can look like it's doing great. So operations on a restaurant side is very difficult business. Not to mention, we didn't even get into this, but like food waste and managing just the fact that, that's a cow you got there. Like, you don't want that to go bad. And you got all, it's very, very challenging. And then, of course, you throw in the pandemic, and that's just absolute madness. We also talked about his over 700,000 followers over multiple social media platforms, much of which is curating content. So I hope we get into that conversation today so you can get a sense of what that means, but also just developing a personality and then ultimately getting to what works for you, because Rev started in the music industry, ported over to restaurants because as a kid, like just restaurants were part of his family culture, and then finding out that maybe operations in a restaurant wasn't his jam, and realizing that he's good at marketing. So it's just one of those classic human stories of you have to follow the reality. Like, what is real? You're real good at marketing restaurants. Well, why don't you start a business and do that for a living? Ladies and gentlemen, I could not be more thrilled to announce our guest today, the one, the only Rev Ciancio.
Hey, what's happening? Thanks for having me on. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you.
Dude, so I always get a sense backstage of just like the energy, of a person. And I'm just thrilled to have you on the show.
Well, thank you. It's an honor. You're like, who is this guy who playing with fidget spinners and wearing a Hawaiian shirt? Like, all right, that's me.
Let's go. So let's talk a little bit about that sort of really deep-seated psychological past motivation of growing up with restaurants. So give me that, and then give me how that matters today with the clients you have.
It's a great conversation, sir. I appreciate that. I was telling you before, and I love the idea that we're online and there's a backstage. Because I come from the music business where there actually was a backstage.
It's my imaginary backstage.
It's like, oh, it's in that room. Fun story. I managed a band once. We'll depart here for a quick second. I used to manage a heavy metal band, and they got invited to play Jimmy Fallon's show, right? And so, when you're on Jimmy Fallon's show, you get put into your little backstage room or whatever. Then the greeter comes and gets you and brings you stage, whatever. Well, we're in our green room hanging out, and apparently the band went to college with Jimmy, so they've known him for years and years and years and years. He worked the door at some club they used to play in Albany. I don't know the story. Anyway, before the band goes to stage, the commercial break before that, Jimmy goes live and he's like, "Hey, coming up next on the Jimmy Fallon the Tonight Show, it's such and such a band," and like they cut to that band's green room, and they're like, "Hey, like can't wait to go on," right? Well, unbeknownst to me, my band decided to trash the dressing room so that when Jimmy cut over and Jimmy's like sitting at his desk and throws it over live, they're in there like smashing couches and breaking TVs and stuff. And like, I'm in the audience at this point because I'm not backstage. I'm like waiting for him to go on, and they go live in studio and I see what's going on. I'm just like what? So Jimmy doesn't see it. The band comes out. They like play it while they're playing. They show Jimmy the clip like, "Yo, this band totally botched your green room. Like, what's up?" And so after the show, like I'm sweating bullets. I'm like, here comes a $15,000 bill, and we're getting sued by NBC. And I'm totally afraid of what's going on. And so I'm just sitting in the room, just sweating bullets. And the band's like kind of laughing. I was like, I don't know how you guys can be laughing. Anyway, like, knock the door opens and it's like Jimmy Fallon. I was like, here he goes. He sticks his head and he goes, "That was awesome. Let's trash the rest of the room." And he like comes in. It's like unbelievable, man. It was such a fun moment.
I'm saying it because as you were telling that story, I thought to myself, Jimmy knows what good content is, right?
He certainly does.
And at the highest levels, it's just material. right? Because you look at their numbers, they're like, bro, for a skit, we'll spend 100 G's on that thing over there and 150 to do this thing over there. Like, what's a trash green room? Who cares?
Yeah. So sorry, I totally departed from answering the question you wanted answered, but I thought that was a funny story since we were on the tip of being backstage. But more so to answer your question. So, when I was a kid, like we went out to eat. Like I got a good grade, we went out to eat. If somebody's birthday, we went out to eat. My mom and dad were bored, we went out to eat. Like going out to eat at restaurants was such like a center point of activity for how my family like interacted with each other. And especially my dad loved to eat out. Like I just grew up thinking going to restaurants was like celebratory, right? And so when you grow up with something that just makes you happy, it becomes part of your life. Moving down the line at some point, I was in the music business for a while, managing bands. And I just became obsessed with hospitality. Like I loved, like, here's the story. So, I work with these bands that would tour the world and I would travel with them. Right. And like, we're playing a show in London, we're on in LA, we're in Vegas, we're going to Japan, whatever. And I would get to these towns in these other states and countries. And my first priority, other than, getting the band, whatever they needed, was like, where are we eating? And it like became this thing where it was like, oh, we're eating everywhere we go. And I was exploring the world through food. And so I'm really sort of rambling at this point, but like, I just love restaurants. Like I just absolutely I love the plight of the restaurant owner. I love the hospitality. I love the service. I love how it brings people together. And even like, the ritual of your morning coffee can bring brightness to your day. So I just love restaurants, man.
I love it. I really do. I mean, I have some pretty far out theories running through my head about love, as is the basis of the fabric of the universe. But yes, I agree. It's one of my favorite human beings, and I don't judge him for a millisecond on how he chose to depart this particular incarnation, is Anthony Bourdain. Like, love that guy. And a lot of these like Hindu teachers and stuff, because I'm Mr. like hippie spiritual guy, is they're like, they'll ask, oh, here's a good story. So there's this guy named Ram Dass, and he's talking to his guru, and his guru's like, oh, your mom she's a really powerful spirit. And Ram's like, he's like, yeah, but she's dead. She was. He's like, no, she is. Right. It's just that little flip. Like, you can't go anywhere, man. Like, it just is what it is. And so all of these interactions you've had with all these incredible people, they've resulted in this love for that particular form, the form of a restaurant, the experience of a restaurant. And I feel the love that you have for it, because it was pulling you all around the world. And as a great band manager, what better motivator can you have than like, hey guys, we're in London, we're gonna eat here, right? And like, that is so important for the bonding and everything that you experienced as a kid. So those were billable hours when you were 6.
I've never put it that way before, but I'm going to now.
So now in the act of service, which is love, right? You are giving to these restaurants this wisdom of like, okay, I'm going to try to keep you alive here and make you successful. So walk me through that. So if one of the listeners out there is a restaurant owner and they're going, yeah, give me the juice, what is it?
So, I'm a hospitality marketing consultant. I primarily help restaurants with acquisition and retention marketing, right? Most restaurants, independent operators up to the largest of multi-unit brands, are not great at marketing. Okay. They're great at operations. They're great at hospitality. They're great at, you walk through the door and we're going to make sure that you have an incredible experience, right? They're great at making sure like all the employees are managed and that like there's food coming in the back door that they're good at writing standard operating procedures for cooking whatever dish. Like they're good at operations. When marketing is something they stumble on. And look, I don't want to take away, there's some incredible marketers out there in the restaurant business, but as a whole, it's a business that just hasn't until very recently prioritized what marketing means, right? And marketing has been disconnected from a lot of things. When I owned a bar, we were actually horrible operators, horrible. We lost tons of money, but I became really good at marketing. And so that's when I was like, I'm going to dedicate myself to this. And look, here's the other thing. It's 2021, right? We're still in the middle of the pandemic. There's still COVID or whatever. And, you know, we lost a lot of restaurants in the middle of this, but if anything, like I feel bad for people that lost their lives, especially, and people that lost their businesses. But if you go look at the data, and there's articles out there that tell you this, prior to the pandemic, there were more restaurants in America than there was available businesses to fuel them, meaning there weren't enough mouths to eat at all the restaurants that were there. So we were headed for some sort of reckoning anyway. It just was going to go a lot slower, right? And all the pandemic did was two things. It pressed the gas down on who we were going to atrophy, who we were going to lose in that anyway, right? And it sped up the dial on being able to market better, to market at a one-to-one level, and to adapt technology, right? And again, I don't want to sound like I'm grateful for the pandemic, because that's not the vibe I'm putting out here, but like the things that happened to the restaurant business because of the pandemic were coming anyway, right? And I think on the other side of this, hospitality and service are going to be better because restaurants now are adopting the idea that we have this in our hands all the time. You know what I mean? For a long time, restaurants did not want to market to you on your phone while you're sitting there. And now they kind of have to, right? And so, you know, again, I have a tendency to go long, but restaurants overcomplicate marketing. They overcomplicate it or they don't do it. There are four main ways in a digital universe where consumers find restaurants. Four. Okay. There's lots of ways, but there's four main ways. Can I go through them real quick?
Please.
Okay. Number one, word of mouth, right? I ate somewhere, I liked it. Well, what does word of mouth look like in 2021? It comes in two forms. Okay. It's me leaving a review on Google or Yelp, and then you as the restaurant owner or marketer replying to me and sharing my review. Okay. What is the other form of word of mouth in 2021 for a restaurant? Social media. If I come into the restaurant and you get me to post on Instagram about the food or experience I had, and then you share it to your stories or you retweet me or your Facebook page, you're thanking me, you're getting me to tell my friends, and you're letting me speak on your behalf. So that's word of mouth, number one. Number two, okay, how do consumers find restaurants in 2021? Third party, okay? Grubhub, DoorDash, Uber Eats, Caviar, whatever one you use. Consumers go onto those and they search what they want to eat and they order. Okay. So it means you have to be optimized on those things. But most restaurants, especially independent operators, they're paying 30 to 35% commission to Grubhub. It's terrible. It's horrible. And the customer is really not yours. It's Grubhub's. You're just doing fulfillment. You're just putting wings in a bag and sending them off. Okay. I don't recommend that restaurants optimize third party unless they have a system for conversion, which is the consumer orders one time from DoorDash and they order from you on all the other ones. Now you're in their database. Now you're in their email, right? And you're their customer. So you got to convert. Okay. So word of mouth. Okay. Third party. Number three. Okay. This is the biggest one. And so many restaurants screw this up. Okay. You're going to know exactly what I'm talking about here. Okay. What do consumers do when they're hungry and they don't know where they're going to get their next meal? We go to Google. Or we go to Google.
Yeah. Google.
Right? We go to Google. Best pizza near me, or gluten-free pizza, whatever. We go to search. Okay, and optimizing for search is something you do with listings management, updating your information on Google, Bing, Yelp, Yahoo, Foursquare. I know you know what I'm talking about, but if you're not optimizing for search, you're missing about 68% of restaurant discovery. Some people say up to, I just got off the phone with my friend Brett at Dine Line, and he says it's 92%. But the point is like, if you're not optimized for search, when somebody has, their wallet in their hand and they're looking for food, you lose. Okay. So you got word of mouth, you got third party, you got search. What's the fourth major one? You want to guess?
No, I don't want to guess.
It is paid advertising, right?
Paid, sure.
It is, and it's specific Facebook and Instagram.
Yep.
Okay. There is no cheaper, faster, more scalable, better way to target people who would like your service or food that live or work within a 3-mile radius of your store than Facebook and Instagram advertising. And so if you're a restaurant in 2021 and beyond, you got to, those 4 channels, focus your efforts there. Word of mouth, online, convert from third party, manage your, be searchable, and advertise. And if you do that, there's a lot of other things you can do, but if you do that, your acquisition is going to go way up.
I love it. I wrote down a couple of things while you were talking. The first is suffering is grace. which is nobody wants to hear it, me least of all. When I'm going through something and then someone comes up to you and they're like, "Oh no, it's actually like it's for the best." You're just like, "Shut up, just would you please?" But it's still true. Like we may not want to hear it in the moment, but suffering is grace. It increases our compassion, it makes us smarter, and it helps with empathy. If you believe in the soul, right? If you think you're just a body, then no, it's terrible, right? It's just bad because you're breaking down. But if you believe in something beyond that, then it's grace. And then when it comes to Google My Business, I often tell people what I'll say is, do me a favor, go Google yourself and pull up your Google my business listing. I'm like, okay. And then I said, now go click on ask a question. And they're like, okay. And then I say, type in, why are my burritos so hot? And this is for a plumber. And they're like, I'm not going to write that. I'm like, yes, anyone can write anything they want here. Anyone can write anything they want here. Good luck getting it taken down. It could be completely irrelevant. It could be the ramblings of a madman and in the question and answer section. And so I say, why don't you have a friend, a colleague, a parent, a relative write, I don't know, 20 questions here? And then why don't you long form answer all of those questions? Do you guys have gluten pizza? It's interesting that you mentioned that. We do have gluten pizza. You know what I mean? And then you hammer those keywords in a flowing, normal, whatever kind of way, not SEO spammy way, but you just hit those keywords. And because I'll look at like restaurant after restaurant or whatever, and they think that question and answer section is not available to them. It is. And so that's a huge piece of the puzzle that I see almost nobody doing. And then
I'm gonna steal that move from you.
Take it, because it's literally content on the platform. I mean, you talk about 92%, 60%. It's like you could add 10,000 words in questions and answers and have people like the question, like the whatever, and then boom, and yeah, you look at all the competitors, none of them are doing it. So make that your fact section, right? If you have a fact section, just have some employee write the questions, 4, 5, 6 questions. And then the other thing is Google My Business posts. A lot of people just don't touch them. They don't play in that space. They should. They go away after a certain amount of time. Everything goes away. Like the internet is like, you could have the top ranking anything right now. In like 2 months from now, it's not going to be. Like everything is transient. So this idea of it being evergreen forever is a little bit, unrealistic.
Yeah, I tell my restaurant clients, like, look, if somebody is on your knowledge card, like if they've landed on your Google My Business profile, they're at the bottom of the funnel, right? They're past the consideration set. Like they're either going to order from you or not. So what can you do to like flip them over? And so what my clients do, will put up a Google post that has a first time order offer. So if you've never ordered from the restaurant before, we'll give you like 10% off. And then we use like a unique code there so we can track redemptions specifically from that. So that code's not available. So we literally on a weekly basis go into our dashboard and go, okay, how many people use the Google My Business code? No, we don't get a lot. We don't. But when we see them, we're like, we got one. Like we might have lost that person, but and we give it to them not every time, only their first order. It's an acquisition, right? It's an acquisition cost. So key move. I love Google Posts.
No, I love that. So I don't fully understand that. So on Google Posts, you say, here's a code. Because the only way they can see it is if it's in a Google Post, and then you just rotate it every week.
Yeah, so they're on our GMB page. At the bottom says get 10% off your first order. Click here. They go in and we have the code inside the Google My Business post, and it's like Google first time or something like that. They take that code, they go to our online ordering, which we also have a link to online ordering in there, and then they click, use the code, and then we're tracking the code.
And then how do you make sure that they can't use the next week's code? By Googling, finding next week's code, punch it in.
So we don't change the code. The code's always like, Google first or whatever.
Okay.
And then most online ordering systems that a restaurant could use have a first time order code feature that once a user has it, they can't use it again. So,
okay, I love that.
Now, look, you can game the system, and I probably shouldn't say these things out loud, but you could go create a fake email and a fake credit card, blah blah. But like, my thoughts on that is like, well, if you're willing to go that far to order a cheeseburger again, that's fine
for 10% because you're saving. How much are you saving? 60 cents.
Like at least we retained you. So like if you need to go through that type of effort to get another 10% off a burger and fries, then you probably need it. So
that's exactly right. I was every now and then I will do faith and humanity experiments where, like, for example, I had a tea set that it's an expensive tea set. It's like $250, super nice Chinese kung fu tea. and I was hanging out in the park with someone, and we were having a good time, and I didn't want to like deconstruct the whole thing, and we were going to go take a walk, and I was like, we'll just leave it, it's fine. And she was like, yeah, but it seems really nice, like, you sure you want to do that? And I said, every now and then I'll do these humanity experiments. It's like faith in humanity. Like, if it's gone and someone needs this tea set, they need to hawk my tea set because they think stealing a tea set in the middle of a park is like the move for them for that day, then they can have it. Then they can have it. And it's not worth it to me to go pack this up. I'd rather spend more time with you. Like, let's go take the walk. So we take the walk, we come back, and when it's there, you get that sense of like, it's not all bad. You know what I mean? It's not all bad. So just put a little bit of faith in people,
It's like when you lose your wallet and somebody mails it back to you and none of the money is missing, you're like, thank you.
Yeah, seriously. More of that, right? Okay, so let's talk about your own personal marketing. I'm curious. So you're the guru. You got it all nailed down. You've been, restaurant guy since birth. You're the angel of restaurants.
You're very kind. Thank you. I wouldn't say that about me, but I will accept it being said about me.
That's exactly right. Just let it in. Let it, just let it flow over you. And so, you got to find these people, and sales, like, people have got that barrier because they need to protect their revenue. If we said yes to every offer that came through our lives, we'd be broke, And so how do you chat with these folks? How do you find them? How do you get clients?
It's a great question. And, it doesn't matter what my answer is. Somebody will tell me that there's a better way to do it. Right. What I can tell you is, so I do a couple of things that I think are pretty well, for sure, could be done better. I create a lot of content, a lot. And so I'm updating Instagram on 4 of my accounts every single day, but on my main account, at least every other day. So let's say I'm putting up a post 4 times a week on Instagram. 1 out of 4 of those pieces of content is about my business. It's about why people hire me, what I do, how I can help you with thought leadership. Okay. The other 3 are about restaurants and how much I love them. So 3 of those are building up trust around that I care about restaurants. The other shows that I actually how to make your restaurant better. So it's content. Okay. Number 1. Number 2, and again, I'm, patting myself on the back a little bit. I'm a pretty good networker, right? Pretty good. I maintain relationships. I follow up with people. I stay in touch. Posting content is really just a way to remind people you exist, right? It's not necessarily, the content should be good, but what I'm saying is some people just need to see your name. Those 2 things alone is constantly updating social media, right? And then being a good networker and following up with people has me with an inbox full of opportunity, right? Now, on that as well, I host a webinar every other week. In fact, I'm doing a webinar in an hour, right? So I'm always putting out content out there where I'm capturing your email address. I've put out 4 ebooks this year, right? So I also maintain a database of people who have interacted with me in some form where I've captured their email address. I have some online courses. I have a paid mastermind group, but I have 20,000 people in an email database who hear from me at least once a week. And whether I'm inviting them to check out a podcast I'm on, or I'm sending them a new ebook, or I just have this helpful tip, is I communicate through content. And that's it. That's really it. Do I regularly, do I have tools that I use to help me follow people? Yes. Am I using CRM like tactics? Yes. Do I look at my analytics on LinkedIn? I do, but it's really just about sharing content and being a good networker.
So to me, it sounds like you've got the the financial, like all of the success things, you've got them, right? You could check them off. And for you, maybe you might go like, no, actually, like for me, it's whatever. But from the outside perspective, it's like check, right? On all those boxes. So given that fact, is this your spiritual path then? I mean, is this, because people refer to this as like a dharma, right? This is my dharma. My dharma is doing this food thing. And it's, this is my way.
I'll tell you a story. So if you didn't tell, I have lots of stories. February 26th of 2020. Okay. I was the CMO for a very successful software company, $44 million in A&R. They're big, right? That company got bought by TripAdvisor 3 months prior to that moment. And we were in the moment where they're integrating the 2 companies. So you have 2 staffs, 2 products, and they're trying to figure out how do we make these 2 things work together. So on February 26th of 2020, I'm at the TripAdvisor offices just outside of Boston, along with my boss, who's the CEO. Okay. We're not there for the same reason. We just happen to be there on the same day. We're at the TripAdvisor office. He's taking the train home. I'm taking the plane home. It's like, cool. I'll see you in the office tomorrow morning. Right. I get it the next morning, February 27th of 2020. I walk into the office. Now, what I didn't know is my CEO got a phone call that night from his boss at TripAdvisor. On February 26th of 2020, TripAdvisor in one day lost an unbelievable amount of money. Why? So we're going into a global pandemic. People aren't going to China at that time. They're not going to Italy. They're not leaving borders. TripAdvisor is a travel company. Well, my boss gets told by his boss, tomorrow morning, 60% of senior management has to be let go. So February 27th, I'm going to work like it's any other day. And my boss is going to work knowing he has to let go almost the entire senior management staff, head of IT, head of finance, basically, if you were not a revenue generating title, so the head of sales, head of customer service, you got let go. And just to impact like how serious this was, after the head of HR let us all go, she had to let herself go, right? And so my boss, who's the CEO, is still a very good friend of mine, says to me, he's like, dude, it's not performance-based. Like, you're awesome. We love you, but what are we going to do? So I went back to my desk and I'm packing up my desk and I'm like, what do most people do now? They freak out. How am I going to pay my mortgage? And I got healthcare. What am I going to do? It's my job. And now add a global pandemic on top of that. Like my entire core is ready to just like crawl into a corner and fall into pieces and cry. Cause like, what do you do? Right? If losing a job isn't already hard enough, we're in a global pandemic. And I said, you know what? Hold yourself together. Like you'll figure this out. I had a severance package. So I knew I was like, I'll figure it out. No joke. While I was packing my desk, I'm literally putting stuff into bags. I'm texting and calling people I know going, hey, I'm going to start consulting. Do you need help with anything? And one of my friends who owns 14 restaurants, he's like, can you be here in an hour? Yeah. Grabbed my bags, went right up to his office. And that day I got my first consulting client, 3 hours a week, right? It's not going to pay for my rent or my mortgage, but I said, you know what? It's a sign. I can do this. I will go be a consultant until I get a new job. And at that point, we all thought the pandemic was going to be like 3 months, maybe 30 days. So like, whatever, I got runway in my severance. Long story short, within about 6 months, I more than replaced my corporate salary as a consultant. And since that time, I've doubled it, right? But I never gave up. I never lost faith. And to really answer your question a bit more directly, I look at me being let go from that job as my holy reckoning. Okay. Had that not happened, had I not been let go, and had I not decided that I was not going to give up and I was not going to master my own destiny, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. So I'm grateful for that happening to me. And I'm grateful for me saying, you know what? I got faith in myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Suffering is grace. So yeah. And then to everyone out there who had the opposite story of, like it just rocked me and my things are not as good and and you're depressed and it's the curriculum of humanity it's exquisite. It's exquisite. It's like this thing that we're in is going to put in front of you just the most insane challenges. And it's gonna force you to grow and change and be in ways that at least for me are almost impossible to imagine. Like the future to me, I can like pretend and do all the stuff in that creative part of my mind, but I do sit back sometimes and just go, holy like this thing is wild. It's wild. So I'm so happy. that is how it turned out for you.
Thank you. I always like to say, see the content of your life as the curriculum of your own evolution.
See the content of your life as the curriculum of your own evolution. See? There you go, folks. If that doesn't do it for you, I don't know what will. Ladies and gentlemen, marketing is a foreign language, 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you're like most folks listening to us after the fact, iTunes, Spotify, we love you. Why don't you swing by youtube.com/SenatRising, hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed the content that you heard today. What an incredible interview. I want to make sure that Rev gets the final word. Go ahead, Rev. Word of wisdom.
The final word is pizza, because that's my religion.
All right, there you have it. Ladies and gentlemen, simpler, more concise words have never been spoken. All right, we'll talk to y'all later.